Alrighty, welcome back to the nonsense. Not a whole lot going on at the moment. In between on the RMK, I'm waiting for a few odds and ends to show up. I had to order a belt, an airbox, and I have a tail light coming in the mail. So hopefully those will be here end of this week. I'll have all those, and maybe this weekend I can actually get this thing pretty much wrapped up. Maybe do a first test ride around my yard that has absolutely no snow. Lame, but what do you do? But gonna push this one off the side of the garage tonight, and gonna pull in one of my other sleds and needs a couple little odds and ends things. I noticed that the skid is actually missing a couple bolts, and one of the bars inside the skid is completely loose. So gonna push the RMK over, pull it in, so let's get that done. It's gonna be really quick for you. So wedge number 2 in this shop. So this is my 488 XCF technically, with a Super Sport hood and a full edge suspension. So we just call it Frankenstein. Good friend of mine built this sled, then he sold it, and I told him you can't sell it, so I had to buy it. So now it's my fun early season beater slash throw any of my friends on sled. And it just works great. It's a 488, and it's hopefully just gonna live for as long as it lives for, you know. As long as I have it. That's the goal, of course. But anyway, I ended up noticing randomly, I was just staring at it in the yard, and ended up realizing a couple pieces in the skid are completely loose. So I'm gonna get it flung around and hung up by the chain hoist and catch back up and show you what the problem is at the moment. So, probably one of my favorite random things. Just drop that controller down and you're good to go. Don't use this thing for much, but my golly, when you got some snowmobiles in here, does it come in handy. There you go. Good to go. Up and away. Drag her back here a little bit. There we go. Go a little higher maybe. There we go. You can hang a whole sled with this too, by the way. Not saying I've done it. So, come over here, see if I can re-find what I found before. You can see the holes right there. I think it's been missing for a while, at least they were loose for a while. But this bar right in front here is not even bolted down, so that is my goal for this, is to get that bar re-bolted in there, and hopefully that is all this one should need. So hopefully that is fairly quick and easy. We can get that done, and I'll get the next one in here tonight yet. So see what I can do with it. Alrighty, that ended up being a really quick, easy fix, and threw some red Loctite and lock washers on the bolts, so with any luck, cross our fingers, they won't come out of there. So also went through and just did an overall bolt check of the whole skid and made sure that this thing is hopefully good to go if we ever get snow. So time to get this one back outside, and time to get sled number 2 in here. So, or I guess sled number 3 actually. So here we go. Alrighty, here is sled number 3. This one is a little bit of a turd, but she's a good unit. Problem that we need to address with this one: manifold is leaking quite slightly. It's already halfway uninstalled itself. Second, there's no hood latch on here, or hood cable. Alright, good, I didn't break the windshield yet, fully. But, come down here. Yeah, that nut's missing. That one's still there. I think the bottom one on this side was also missing, and yeah, so on and so forth. Manifold rattled off, so picked myself up some cheap gasket material. Gonna make some new gaskets for it and get that rebolted on. Do a quick little once over of this thing here, but little 440 fanner, and this one is the throw anybody you want on and watch them kill themselves sled. So, gotta make sure this one's at least running halfway decent and go from there. So, see what happens from here. Alrighty, well I stand misspoken on the one bolt holding it on. There was actually two bolts holding it on. But, nonetheless, got our manifold here, so time to throw it on there, draw out some stencils, and get to cutting them out and bolt this thing back on. Clean up the front of the head here. Good to go. Good quick fix, and this turd will be back to bombing around in no time, so I like it. Nice and easy. At least it'll start out that way. Alrighty, managed to clean the bench off. Got the gaskets all drawn up on my material here, so time for me to get them cut out. Just like that, I got two ugly homemade gaskets, but you know what? They are going to get the job done, so time to clean up the front of the head here and get this thing all bolted back together. So another nice quick job, at least it should be. Still gotta find some new hardware for it, but that's a minor detail, so time to get this thing installed. Just like that, we are all back together on this one. Nice simple repairs. Time to spin this thing around, get it the hell back outside. Hopefully tomorrow we'll get some parts showing up for the RMK and we can do some more assembly on that. Once the airbox comes in, that's really all we need. It's the last major piece I'm missing to it. So once that comes in the mail, that thing will be good to go. And we might actually be able to do our first test drive on it, or test ride, and see what happens and keep going from there. But this little turd here is going back outside, and we'll be ready for yard ripping and lake ripping if we ever get any snow. So see what the hell happens. But that's it for the side projects on these snowmobiles. Mainly going to see RMK content now and bring in some other odds and ends from here on out. So yeehaw. Alrighty, got some parts in for the RMK finally. Got myself a belt I ordered from Napa, and my airbox finally came in the mail from eBay. Gonna get it popped apart and cleaned out. It is pretty darn dirty on the inside, so get this thing all cleaned up and up to par and get her on the sled here. Still waiting on a voltage regulator, so not gonna run it tonight, but we can at least get the airbox in, secondary clutch on, and a belt on. And this thing will then hopefully be ready to ride once my voltage regulator comes in. I should have that. Oh, I hope tomorrow. Tomorrow would be sweet. It's Friday, because the chances of it coming on a Saturday are very slim. So with any luck, I'll get that tomorrow, and maybe we can test ride this thing this weekend in dirt and ice. So yeah, great conditions. But nonetheless, I want to try and ride this thing and just, you know, see if anything's gonna act up or blow up or what the fuck's gonna happen with it. So gonna jump into it here, show you my progress I've made once I've made some on this airbox. So I'm gonna get her all popped apart. Alrighty, got her popped apart. These plastic tabs are quite a pain in the butt to deal with, but this thing is absolutely filthy. Like, that's nuts. This thing probably hasn't been on a sled for a very long time. Luckily, all the foam on the inside is in really good shape. Even the piece on top that seals up to the hood that's normally disintegrated, really good shape. So that is awesome to see. So time to get the whole thing cleaned up and get this thing on the sled. Well, a bit too long later, all of this is now nice and clean. Thing was absolutely disgusting. Everything was just built up on there. It was all oily and greasy on the inside, so it was just held in there, glued together and all packed in. So quite a good improvement. Time to get her all popped back together and actually get her in the sled, so that's very exciting. Not sure if I'm going to stay out here long enough to put the secondary on tonight. Like I said, that took me a lot longer to clean than expected it to, so might just get it popped together and thrown in here and just call it a night. So alright, I've done quite a bit since I last left off. Got a lot of stuff finalized. Air box is in, CDI box is mounted, the coil pack is mounted. None of this is even meant to attach to this air box. All of this, I believe, is from a 2000s Edge 700, I think. The wiring harnesses I was looking at, that's what everything kind of matches up to. So had to do a little bit of modifying and some zip tying, and got my CDI box in there. So fingers crossed that's good. New voltage regulators in down there, and I had to move it down because mounting in the factory spot, it hit the lip right there, so I moved it down onto there. Got all the wiring finally situated. Little zip tied bundles just to keep everything tidy, because there's a little bit extra since it's not meant to be in this chassis. Same thing going on here, a little zip tie bundle just to keep it up and out of the way. So it's in there though. Got her all, she cleaned up real nice. Still gotta find a pin to hold the belt cover, but I am just about ready to fill this thing up with coolant and yeah, run her some more. So very exciting stuff. I do gotta run to town though and grab some distilled water to mix with my coolant, so gonna go take care of that, and we'll be hopefully going for a test ride around the yard today. Luckily we got a dusting of snow again. Very, very depressing winter out there, but oh well. By any means, we're gonna get to ride this at least. See what she does, see if she does anything. So, got a belt on it for the first time. This is the first time in my ownership that this thing has had a belt, so that's pretty neat. Overall, just excited and definitely a little bit nervous, so see what happens here in a little bit. Alrighty, you're all ready to fill up the cooling system. Got a few more odds and ends tidied up, got my coolant mixed up, ready to go here. So brought home my vacuum bleeder for this. I figured this could be kind of a tricky thing to bleed, so why not just get it over with. So I'm gonna get that guy onto here, pull a vacuum down on the system and suck some coolant into it, and that way we should have no air bubbles in this and shouldn't have to worry about overheating issues as much as we already should be, because there's no snow to actually cool this thing off. But you know, it won't have an air bubble. So get my phone set up here and show you what I'm doing. The other nice thing about a vacuum bleeder, you find out if you have any leaks in your system. I already put this on here the other day, so I know that this is good to go. So, time to have some fun. So, pulls down a vacuum there, slide my arm off of there, get it to stop, and let her sit right there for a little bit, make sure that she's holding vacuum, and we'll be good to draw some into it. So, very cool setup. I love these things to death. They make life so much easier for a lot of newer vehicles that I work on. So, and when you have toys like this, it's just fun to use on. So, heck yeah. All you got to do then, open up the bottle, drop your hose in, and flick your lever there. So I always hold it in there though, just to make sure it doesn't pop out, because the hose does like to float. So see what happens here. First time putting coolant in it. Well, yeah, that's a good guess. The reservoir is right where I wanted it, so. Cool. Get all the extra out of the hose. Good to go. Actually, a little bit fuller than I wanted it. A little bit, about an inch above the full mark, so probably end up taking a little bit out of it, but that's not a big deal. So this one's full for the first time. Good stuff. Kind of scary. No turning back now. But yeah, that is a vacuum bleeder. If you've never seen one before, very handy tool. Just filled my cooling system, fully bled in about 5 minutes, so right on. All right, got the sled turned around, the back end hung up by the hoist here, so we are ready to fire this thing up and see the track move for the first time, see if the brake I just put on here works, and overall see what happens. We know the motor runs and revs, so time to test it all, time to see if I blow out another headlight, and oh man. And then after that, maybe try a little test drive. See what happens. Definitely curious. I've never seen the track spin on this sled, so set her up and get to it. I can only try and think of so many more things as I'm doing this, so let's see what happens. Does not sound happy at all. Face. Smoky now. Interesting. Does not sound very happy though. Sounds like it's only hitting on one cylinder. stuff here and see what I can figure out. So it has been about 2 hours since the last clip of this thing running like shit, and it has only continued to get worse. I've only gotten it to run once since then in that 2 hours, which it was just a few minutes ago, and it has completely flooded itself. That is a puddle of fuel. You can see my manifold bolt is rattling loose there, and I finally got to start about 10-15 minutes ago, and all my fuel that just piled up in there came flying out of the manifold as soon as it fired up. So I quickly shut it off, yanked the carbs off of it to keep it from filling up with any more fuel, and I'm gonna say the floats or whatever is sticking inside the carbs, and well, it flooded me out. So carb kits are on the way. I also found out that the left choke cable was adjusted up really tight so it wasn't bottoming out, so that was probably adding too much fuel into it. And then also the right choke cable, the cable is connected and there, but up in the lever here for it, whatever goes into here is not connected to the cable anymore, and this looks like a sealed plastic unit for it, and if I take it apart it probably isn't going back together. So looks like probably going to be getting new choke cables, going to be rebuilding the carbs. So yeah, you gotta love the snowball effect, but you know, that's how it goes. The motor's the only thing I haven't touched, so might as well start digging into that now, right? Was hoping to just be able to fire this thing up and go test it, but yeah, well, oh well, bit me in the butt. Voltage regulator does seem to be working though. In the few minutes it was running the first time, we did not blow out our headlight, and it was still good for this last fire up, so cross your fingers that I got that part solved. But yeah, sadly, not going to be going for a test ride this weekend. Luckily, by the time I get parts in for the carbs and the chokes, I'll have my tail light in. We can get that completely finished up. So still odds and ends to do, but everything else is basically tidied up. So I'm going to get on the old interwebs tonight and see what I can find for some carb kits, and heck yeah, we'll get this thing all fixed up and hopefully sorted out. So stay tuned.